Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this informational meeting on emergency preparedness. These types of meetings have been held throughout the years that I'm told. I'm fairly new here. This is the first one that we've done since I've been here. What my goal is, the purpose of the meeting is so that you can leave here hopefully with a better understanding of what pieces are in place, what policies are in place, which laws are in place, which will generate a response to a major disaster in Bear Valley. But what I wanted, there's a number of different, disasters which could occur in Bear Valley. What I want to do, though, is kind of focus this one, steer it a little bit towards the wildland fire side, because that is what we're all afraid of up here. We can deal with earthquakes and floods and that kind of thing. Wildland fires, they come quick and they're very unpredictable. We don't know where they're going to pop up. So that's kind of the area that I would like to go. I got some, I'm Chief Melanson with the Bear Valley Police Department. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panel, and what we're going to do is in a moment I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Chief Steve Schaefer with the Kern County Fire Department. He brought some representatives. He brought some backup with him. And my goal, again, is to have you leave here better educated than you were when you got here. And in order to do that, there's some things that we want to put out to you. And then my goal, again, is that there's a good amount of question and answer period towards the end. So what I'm going to ask, if we can, is that you hold any questions you have or remember them to the end, because we will have time for questions and answers. Okay? Tonight you're going to hear from I'm going to do a short presentation on the CSD's responsibilities or roles in a disaster preparedness in an emergency. We're going to hear from Jeannie Taylor. She's going to talk about personal preparedness, what you can do at home to remain prepared. And you're going to hear from Fiona Nelson on how to keep your animals safe and keep them safe in a disaster. So let's go ahead and do introductions. There's a microphone right there, Jeannie, please. Just you stay right there. You stay right there.
I'm Damon Pierce, a sergeant with the Bear Valley Police Department.
Jeannie Taylor, chair of the Disaster Preparedness Advisory Council.
Steve Shoemaker, Deputy Chief, Kern County Fire.
Captain Michael Nicholas, Kern County Fire.
Jake Cagle, Captain for Kern County Fire Department.
Bree Shefsick, engineer with Kern County Fire Department.
Jimmy Rocha, firefighter, Kern County Fire Department.
I clearly don't count. I'm Fiona, and I'm involved with animals. I'm a zoologist, so I'll be doing the animal preparedness section.
Thank you. Because they brought such a great contingent, I'm sure that they're going to be able to answer every question you might have about wildland fires in Bear Valley. I'd like to introduce Deputy Chief Steve Schaefer.
Good evening. I want to thank you guys. It's a great group out here today. So we know that you guys are very interested into hearing what we have to say today. One of the things I can guarantee you is that the Kern County Fire Department will be ready to go at any time throughout, this summer, 24/7, 365. We're ready for you to try to save you if we need to. Obviously, we're an all-risk, just about everything fire department, and so we hope that you'll get some good information out of this. One of the things I know that is probably going through your minds is fires coming up from the backside, from maybe like off the 223. So I have one of our captains is going to come out and kind of talk a little bit about that and what has been done already to help keep Stallion Springs, not only Stallion Springs, but also Bear Valley safe. So, Jake, come on up.
Evening, everybody. Sorry I'm short. I'll bring it down here a little bit. So first and foremost, I wanted to thank you all. Driving up here today is the first time I've been up here in the spring, since the spring, and the hazard reduction that was done that I could see from the roadside, kudos to you guys. Excellent job. Appreciate that, you guys doing that. That certainly helps us do our job when we do have a fire here. So as Chief Shoemaker talked about, I wanted to explain a little bit about what we've done to mitigate some hazards that would come off the Highway 223 up out of Arvin Corridor and the 58. So in the past, what we do every spring, we have our heavy equipment. They go out and basically they put a dozer brake in between the toe of the slope and the highway itself. We do that all through the county, 223, 58, parts of I-5, 65, Highway 65, so all throughout the county. So this is over 8,000 square miles, so as you can assume, that's a lot of work for those folks doing that work. So in the past, we've had a lot of drought, which we get obviously little growth during the winter time. So that was very effective. We didn't have to mitigate any other reasons. That would give enough time if we did get a roadside start, motorhome catches fire, pull and pitch up the hill, or a chain's dragging and it starts in between that section, it just catches that section. It gives our equipment time to get there and put the fire out before it gets to the toe of the slope and starts running. So this year and the years in the past, we're starting to see a little bit more growth. Got a lot of rain this year, so the grass is really tall. So we've had to go out with that heavy equipment and go through those lines multiple times because we do get that regrowth. They go out in February, they do it. 2 months later, it regrows. So what we've done to mitigate, specifically on the 223, and we did this in 2017 as well, is we put fire down in between that cut, that dozer cut, and what we found, we did it in 2017, we didn't have any issues, any fires that year from roadside starts. What this does is minimize, I would say somewhere in the percentage of 97, 98% of any kind of fires because most of the fires that do start are roadside. Obviously, we can't do anything about the lightning fires or any kind of firework or I know we had one at the gun range a couple years, 2016. So that minimizes fires like the deer fire that we had in 2016. I believe that was 1,600 acres, did run up to some of the homes in Bear Valley. However, we were able to work those fires and it burned into the evening and we were able to keep it out of Bear Valley coming in there. But the back door, the toe of the slope on the 223 is protected for you. We got it basically 7 miles done from the granite quarry all the way north to 223 and 58. Our plans in the future, we want to do more of this, more targeted areas. We want to look at sections of the I-5, sections of 58, so we can continue this. But that's what we've done on the backside, and we'll continue. We have a good working relationship with Tejon. They appreciate what we're doing as well. So that should minimize any impact off the 223. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jake. Probably the next thing that we probably want to talk about is defensible space around your houses. That's very, very important to your safety, to your family safety, to your animal safety, those types of things. So I'm going to bring up Mike Nicholas right now. He's going to talk a little bit about hazard reduction, what you should be doing to your houses right now. If you haven't already started, we want you to get going as soon as possible. He'll fill you in on what you should do and why it'll be effective for you.
All right, thank you, Chief. My name is Mike Nicholas. I am the supervisor for the Hazard Reduction Program. This is an annual program that we oversee and implement in an attempt to try and incentivize homeowners to create some protection around their homes as well as around their property lines. I'm sure that some of you have seen the inspections coming through and or received letters in the past about mitigating those, the accumulation of weeds. And so the deadline for the clearance was already passed, and that was June 1st. So we have now accumulated all of the violations through our inspections at the station level. We're still obviously taking complaints from the residents if there are things that they see and or need addressed. All the citations have been filled out and actually have been mailed already. Just for your information, this year's stats, we are over twice the number of violations that we had last year. So we are making a concerted effort to get out there and to evaluate our communities. And we have a number of people working directly with our unit. We have engineer Bree Sheffrick, and she's going to be talking a little bit more about the actual defensible space in terms of distances from your house, distances from your property lines, and some of the management of the fuels as that relates to those areas. So for Bear Valley this year, Station 16, in conjunction with any complaints that we had received, we have 90 citations that were mailed out. Now, these citations are, like I said, an attempt to incentivize homeowners to be proactive in addressing these weed concerns and fuel accumulation. And so if these are cleared, there's 15 days from the time that the violation is mailed for the homeowner to actually clear the lot without running the risk of actually getting the citation. So there is an appeal process. Again, this is kind of a progressive program that we try to create awareness in the community, get people kind of looking and policing themselves, and then we go and do a sweep before the 1st of June, make sure that we've made a concerted effort to take a look at properties at risk, homes at risk, again, vacant properties. We have ways of trying to identify the owners through the APN numbers of the lots. And so that's kind of the process of how we actually manage the complaints, the inspections, the citations. Gave you some of the stats for this year compared to last. So in regards to the actual mechanics of it, I'm going to bring up Bree, and she can give you a little more information about the actual setbacks and defensible space we're looking for. Thank you, guys.
Hi, I'm Bree Shefsick, an engineer with Kern County Fire Department. Right now I'm the coordinator for the hazard reduction program. So I oversee all the stations that submit citations, and I mail all those out. And I'll be, I'm sure, receiving phone calls here shortly. Basically talk about defensible space a little bit. As I'm sure a lot of you know, being here, I would assume that all of you are very proactive with your properties and take pride and ownership into the appearance of it. But just to give a little information about it, it's a total of 100 feet, and the first 30 feet is technically supposed to be down to bare mineral soil, and then that remaining 70 feet, which creates the 100 feet, is no more than 4 inches of grass in height. And you also want to eliminate any continuous vegetation, so leaving areas where bushes aren't touching each other for long periods of time. That way, if a fire does go through there, it'll be broken up, and it will hopefully slow it down or stop it. And then in regards to property lines, if there is an empty lot next to you and your house is within 100 feet or a structure is within 100 feet of that empty lot, that person that owns the lot is required to clear 10 feet along that property line. And I know that that's been confusing in the past, but that's the rules that are in place right now for property lines. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And as well as your 100-foot clearance, you also want to maintain your trees, ensuring that the trees are cut either 6 feet from the ground or a third of the way up the tree, depending on the height of the tree. You also want to take into consideration slopes. If you have a slope right behind your house within 100 feet, if you're able to do a little bit more than just that 100 feet, I would highly recommend that, just with fuel loading and topography. So with the hill, and if a fire starts down below, it's going to preheat the fuels in front of it because of the hill, and it's going to run up the slope faster and get some wind behind that, and it's gone. So, and that creates very high flame lengths as well. You also want to take note of pine needles, accumulating on your roof and in your gutters, as well as, any low-hanging branches that touch the ground or touch the roof or come near your fireplace outlets and stuff like that. So I think that's about it, just to give a quick refresher. So, thank you.
Okay, we're going to bring up Jim Rocha. He's going to talk a little bit about escape routes.
I can no longer see any of you. I'm seeing stars. Anyways, I'm Jimmy Rocha. I work in the Kern County Fire Department. I do a lot of different things. Currently, right now, I'm the crew coordinator for the 3 crews in Kern County. You're lucky enough up here to have Tehachapi Valley that's just down the road. It's your crew here. We have another crew in Lebec and then 1 crew in Lake Isabella. So I do that. I am also taking care of fuels right now and hazard mitigation. So I kind of have a full boat that I'm working with right now. So historically in here in the Bear Valley area, you guys, most of your fires have been notoriously from lightning or stuff coming off the 223 corridor, with the occasional lawnmower doing their hazard reduction that starts a fire in here. The good thing about having lightning fires in here, usually when they come in the summer, as you're well aware of, is they usually get lots of rain. It's just that rare year when we get the dry lighting, when we've had 2 big busts that have came through. I'm sure some of you remember the ones just a few years back. And then in the mid-'90s, we also had the Stallion Complex that came through. So that prompted us in the Kern County Fire Department. We had some wise guys that worked when I first started in the department that did really good pre-fire planning. Some of our chiefs, some of our captains we had, so you probably remember some of them, Lauren Lang, Randy Weiswig, and some of those guys, Jerome Nathan. They wrote up a lot of good plans that gave us a foundation for the escape routes, and then some of the stuff we had putting in place, bringing the resources in here to do structured defense on your homes. So we came up with the escape route of going out through Skyline, going out through Jacaranda, and then of course the major one of going out through the entrance when you do have the fire. So we had those things in place where we came along and we came up with the escape routes, put plans together, what we call pre-fire plans, that would show what engines we would bring in. We put in the strike team boxes so that way when we got the engine from, say, CAL FIRE's Tulare unit, who has no idea where Jacaranda is, he's able to come up to this box. You open up this box. It's got 5 sets of pre-maps in it that shows all of your houses, where the water is, so that way when we send that strike team of engines, which is 5 engines, up to protect your neighborhood, they know where they're going. So you have that in place, and it's some of the work we've done, which leads us into the fuels part of the work. You guys live in a unique area that some of you up on the top are living in a truly timber-type community with big trees and all the stuff that came with tree mortality, and you guys were in basically the center bullseye of tree mortality. And then those of you down here in the valley floor are living more in a grass, Oakland, or a high desert deal. So you're looking at 2 different types of fire the Kern County Fire Department has to fight if we're in here. A low-lying grass fire down here in the bottom, which we can, work with a lot easier in the light flashy fuels, to actually having to fight a full-on timber fire if something gets established in the tree mortality up on top of the mountain. So what we've tried to do over the years is come in with the loggers. We were able to get grants to be able to take out some of the tree mortality. We were able to bring in our crews with some of the chippers and stuff and take some of that stuff and either chip it or burn it as we were able to, and also with you guys have chipper days. And we lost a little bit on the chipper days due to the fact of losing the fire safe councils. There used to be a fire safe council in the Tehachapi area. It went away along with the Kern River Valley one and the Fraser Park one. We're trying to bring those back. Chief Witt is very interested in bringing back the fire safe councils. We're looking for new blood with that and trying to come up with that, because what I would like to see again is, when was the last time the community service district came in here and we had a chipper day where you guys brought down your brush that you did, and we came in with the crew and we chipped it up for a day to help you do your hazard reduction towards June the 1st. Those are the type of things I would like to see come back through the community service district and stuff. If you guys as a homeowners association would come up with a plan sometime in early spring, if we have a collection point, we'll come back in with the crews and the chippers 1 to 2 days and do the chipping for you guys. And then the other thing that I would like to look at again too is look at doing some of the escape routes, of doing the road brush clearing on those. If we have some money that's coming in through CAL FIRE and hazard reduction grants that we might be able to apply to that. I have my foreman that runs the crew up here. He's going to start looking at the roads again and stuff. I don't promise you, but that might be some of the stuff we're looking at so we can be proactive in the community and come back in here and do this. So that's basically what I have for you guys in a nutshell. I'm long-winded, but I'm Portuguese, as they say, so I like to talk. So.
All right, now what I'd like to do for the next 15 or 20 minutes is just talk about the CSD's role in disaster preparedness, response, and recovery. What are we talking about? What kind of disasters are we talking about? Well, these ones here: major earthquakes, wildfires, severe weather, utility incidents like a gas line breakage, public health incidents, transportation incidents. I believe that we're in the flight path of Meadows Field in Bakersfield. I know I've flown right over Bear Valley going in there. Law enforcement incidents and terrorism. I'll go to the emergency operations plan. And if you're not familiar with this, it's sort of a living document of a plan used by the district. Every municipality has one of these. They're required by FEMA. They're developed over time. They're looked at every couple of years. They're revised as time goes on. The purpose of it is to state on the record the responsive actions of the Bear Valley Community Services District to these extraordinary situations. There is a copy of this, or you can access this document on the CSD webpage. And it's interesting reading. A lot of work's gone into it, and it's always being updated. The plan demonstrates the district's emergency management organization, and that's really what it does. Is it requires us to work under a particular emergency preparedness or emergency structure. SEMS, Standardized Emergency Management System, and NIMS, or National Incident Management System. And so if every municipality that may have to assist each other is under that same structure, then integration during a disaster is easy because everybody knows what that command structure looks like. And so that's real important. It also actually mandates certain training for local leaders, myself included. And in fact, your board of directors is having to go through right now and do their online incident management training videos. They do their videos, take a test, and so they have to be trained on it too, as well as people from the CSD, including our general manager, our finance folks, our public works director. So what is the overall goals? Provide effective life safety measures, reduce property loss, protect the environment, rapid resumption of community services after the event, and provide accurate documentation after the event is over. And that's for reimbursement from the federal government if it's there to be had, or the state. Another thing that we use is real important, and I think that most people in here are probably familiar with it, is our DPAC committee, and I have to give them a lot of accolades. This is a hard-working committee. It was stood up in 1995 by the CSD. Its sole purpose is to keep this document accurate, complete, and viable as our emergency operations plan. The DPAC is an advisory committee to the Public Safety Committee. It reviews the general progress of the plan, recommends changes to the district for changes, and the council consists of 5 residents with the valley, that live in the valley. And I just want to give them a quick shout out real quick. Jeannie Taylor is the chair of the DPAC. Adam Rock, Vince Rondone, Joe Lombardi, Fiona Nelson, and Phil Turok. I think they're all here, and I really thank them a lot for everything they do. We meet once a month at the CSD. It's an open meeting. It's an open meeting, so you're welcome to come and see how the sausage is made. Once a month. It's the second Wednesday, I believe, of every month, 9:30 a.m. Second Monday, 9:30 a.m. We also, as in the CSD and the police department, are members of the Kern operational area. The Kern operational area is California, for instance, is broke up into 58 counties. Each county is known as an operational area for ICS purposes, and we have agreements. So there's a Kern operational area. We have mutual aid agreements in place with Kern. We're a participating member of that organization. We're of the management organization. The CSD Public Safety Committee is represented by me usually. Once a month, I go to meetings of the Operational Area Management Committee. And the CSD participates in, as I said, mutual aid agreements with Kern County for law enforcement and fire, and for also public works and other resources needed during a disaster. So it's just important to know that the CSD is well tied into the county's resources. We understand that our resources are relatively limited, and that we may have a lot of need we're in a unique position up here in Bear Valley, and very likely we will need mutual aid pretty close to the onset of some type of major wildland fire or any kind of disaster. So we appreciate our relationship with Kern County. The Emergency Operations Center. This is kind of interesting because the Bear Valley CSD has an Emergency Operations Center. It's currently located at the police department with a secondary location at the CSD. Kern County has an Emergency Operations Center located up on the bluffs in Bakersfield. Each county has an Emergency Operations Center. The state of California in Sacramento has an Emergency Operations Center, and FEMA has one for the feds. They all look fairly similar. I've been to the federal one, I've been to the state one, and I've been to the county one a bunch of times. It's a big room like this with TVs all over and all kinds of desks, and it brings people together during a disaster, those key people that are needed to manage a disaster. And when they're operating under this standardized emergency management system, it's a pretty neat thing to see. Some of the teams that you'll see in those emergency operations centers, there will be a command or a commander in charge, an incident commander. That person, and in fact, they actually wear a vest, a different color vest, so you can see them from a long distance away. Operations, another vest. Logistics, planning, and finance and admin. Finance and admin, you might imagine, they're there to keep track of everything that municipality is spending on that disaster. And then again, that is for cost recovery after the incident. So what would I've had people ask me this, so I'm just going to answer it. If it's not a question you have, then you're going to have useless information. But I've been asked, what would it look like if we had a wildland fire in Bear Valley as far as the PD's perspective? And here's really what it would look like. A fire would kick off, and I, or my designee, or even if it's in the middle of the night, an on-duty officer, would quickly assemble with the fire department and form a command post. And that's real critical because that's where the command of that fire starts. They would be channeling information back to our dispatch center and back to the CSD, advising what's going on. How big is the fire? where's it going, and how long is it going to take to get here. So that's called a unified command. Well, if the fire got much bigger and resources started coming in from other jurisdictions, they would form what's called a unified command. And that is one where you have different branches of government, or different specialties, I guess, or disciplines, law enforcement, fire, fish and game, and they get together, and it's a unified command where decisions are made and they're kind of consulted on. One of the things that's particularly important during those unified command meetings is evacuations. And so that's usually a law enforcement function during a wildland fire. And so I would consult with the fire department on things because I'm not a fire science person. Where do we want to go? Which is the safest direction to go? Is it better to shelter in place? Is it better to go to a refuge area within the valley floor? And so there's been a lot of talk. We've had a lot of discussions about evacuation routes, and I think you might have read my article recently in the Bear Tracks magazine, where we went out and did a roads assessment on those, and they are not in good shape. They are not in any kind of shape that I would want to send 1,000 vehicles down of varying types, varying sizes, trailers, trucks, motorhomes, motorcycles. So, again, this would be a hard decision to make at the incident command, at the unified command about escape routes, but that's where that decision would be made. If you have any questions on that type of thing, we can handle that in the question and answer period. Unified Command works together to develop a common set of incident objectives and strategies. This is where they figure out how to fight this fire. We're very lucky that, at least in the response stage, we have volunteers. We have sign-ups in the back, too, for anybody that is interested in becoming a volunteer. Our VIPs, our volunteers and police services, are great. Their numbers are we'd love to see the numbers get bigger. They help us in traffic control and delivery of different things, materials. Our community emergency response team, or CERT team, everybody in here probably knows a CERT team member. The Greater Tehachapi area has a really, really good CERT team. They're all trained. They're background checked. They would come in after a disaster and could provide assistance by, again, helping with evacuations, helping people in refuge areas, water, anything they might need. And then other volunteer organizations like the Central California Animal Disaster Team that Fiona's going to speak on, and then the American Red Cross. I've said it since I've been here, early evacuation is critical. However, bottlenecks can occur. Refuge is the lowest level of evacuation to move residents out of harm's way. If you read any after-action reports of the Paradise Fire, and I don't want to draw too many parallels between the Paradise Fire and Bear Valley, because there are distinct differences. But if you do draw any parallels, you'll see that in the Paradise Fire and many, many other fires, one of the biggest hindrances to the fire services getting in to fight the fire were vehicles trying to leave, people trying to escape. And to where in many fires they have to bring a bulldozer down and move abandoned vehicles out of the roadway. That's why this refuge area plan is something we're working on. We've been consulting with fire on it, obviously. We're identifying areas within the valley floor that are absolutely viable as refuge areas, temporary holding areas for residents to come down and shelter in place for a limited amount of time. And there also could be set up as future evacuation shelters run by Red Cross. And those areas include the Whiting Center, the Country Club, and the golf course. Evacuation routes, again, I'll just touch on it real quick. Routes leading out of Bear Valley other than Bear Valley Road, they, in my opinion, cannot be relied upon at any time, at all times, as a viable escape route. Many of them are narrow, there's sharp turns, there's switchbacks, there's steep, there's no signage. Many of them have locked gates, and many of them cross over private property. In fact, I would say all of them at some point cross over private property. This limits the CSD, and I hope people can understand, this limits the CSD from going in and constructing a 2-lane wide road down any of those routes. Again, a lot of those decisions about where to go during a wildland fire are going to have to be made by the Unified Command, and they're going to have to be made after those routes, whatever route might be deemed viable, and that could take a lot of time. Just in closing, I would say Code Red and Ready Kern. Those are two incredibly important services to be signed up for. We have in the back forms where you can fill out to sign up for Code Red, Ready Kern 2. Ready Kern also. Ready Kern is really more or less a county version of what we have here in Bear Valley is Code Red. And Code Red is no, it's no makeshift thing that we made up here in Bear Valley. It's a nationally used emergency incident warning system. So it's a very good service. With that, I'll bring up Jeannie Taylor to talk about personal preparedness.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yes. I too am short. Actually, I'm right-sized. There we go. Can everybody hear me? Okay, excellent. He's going to pull up some slides. You're going to always see in these presentations a little bit of overlap, just because we all have our pet, this has to happen, this has to be spoken. It's not a bad thing if you hear something 2 or 3 times. It actually starts becoming your idea. So we never worry too much if we all say, sign up for Code Red and sign up for Ready Kern, because we're going to tell you that a lot of times. All right. Okay. So how many were here at the November presentation? I got a few of you? Okay. You're going to see a little bit of repeat, but as I said, this is good for you. Before I get started, there's a clipboard here. I need to get everybody's, at least your name. And I'm not going to send you anything if you don't want anything. But on the last column, it's asking if you are interested in an 8-hour family-specific preparedness class where you get together and we work on your family plan, what you need to know at home. I have to get with the other trainer. She's out of town right now. But it would be either a weekday night or a weekend night, if you just put your preference. If you don't want to do it, just don't put anything. I still could use your name. And there's a few pages here, so I'm going to pass this around. And if you do want more information in there, just write it in. Okay, so let's get started. Really? Oh, you still have my USB in. Okay. Ta-da. Okay, so this is going to be hard. I'm a walker. I pulled this information off of FEMA's ready.gov, as you see in the bottom. That is a fantastic resource for all things preparedness, whether it's family, whether it's school, whether it's your business. This is a great resource. And they split up the big universe of preparedness into be informed, plan ahead, take action. I'm going to do the same thing. But why? Why am I saying prepare? Why are we telling you all this? You're hearing it all the time. It's personal responsibility. Personal preparedness is personal responsibility. And here, where we have a higher risk, we have a higher responsibility. But the good news is you can affect your outcome. Your survivability and your resilience is direct effect of what you do today. I have a colleague from way back when who always said 90% of what you could have done to affect yourself positively in whatever you're doing is gone as soon as the ball drops, whatever that ball drop is. So with this, what the disaster is makes a difference. Where you are and what warning you get or don't get or didn't sign up for will also affect your resilience. How do you come out of this afterwards? I always say preparedness is like laundry. It's never done, but it's not that hard. So for preparing it, look at your situation, your family plan. It's great that we have the county here, that we have the district here, and we're all working towards what we're going to do as a community. You need to look at your community of your home address. So consider what you have in your home that needs more attention. Do you have people who need more assistance if we had to evacuate? Do you have young children who need to be strapped in a car seat so you don't have as much room to put in whatever else you're trying to get? What do you need to do for you all? And what do you need to do for your situation today? Did somebody break a leg? That's going to change the way you evacuate them. Do you have someone who's dealing with a severe illness? That's a whole nother level of planning. So look at those types of issues today and see what you can do to mitigate. We talked about mitigation for fire by clearing around your house so you don't have the same threat as you did before you cleared. This is the same kind of program of mitigating. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go over this. Chief Melanson talked about this over DPAC's under Public Safety Committee. And that's what DPAC is. It's a mouthful, I know. In the ordinance, it says we're going to look at that big beast of a plan and make sure it still works for us. We end up doing a lot more. Why? Because we live here too. We actually care. We actually want to protect ourselves, our families, our neighbors. And you all are our neighbors. So, okay. And our big plans for this year is this evacuation issue. It's huge. We all know it is. We're also looking to get more information out there readily available for you on our new website and work much closer with our association partners because they're our neighbors too. All right. Chief talked about what they are planning for. This is what the county currently has in their emergency operation plan. It's much bigger. It's a much bigger area as well. They're in the process of revising it, and things change as the politics change. But who thought we had a volcanic hazard? Well, if the Long Valley caldera goes, guess where that soot's all coming? It's coming for us, and it makes a mess. Okay, so what can you do? Know your community, and I mean not just your neighbors, which is fantastic, but your physical community. Get a street map and start writing down, noting where the landmarks are. I lived here almost 3 years before I realized what Domino Hill was. You know how I realized it? Because I went sliding down it too. It was a lot of fun. I don't recommend it. Okay, locate your home on that map. And this is something great to keep in the car because we all have our smartphones, we all have our cell phones, and did we charge it? How long will it last? So have paper copies of things as well. Also, find out for those of us who have kids, what's your school's plan? Are they going to send all the kids home? Well, great. Now you have to go get the kids as well as everything else you're trying to do. Know your resources. There's a handout amongst all the stuff over there that has a whole mess of websites on there. I didn't put anything on there I didn't believe in. So there's great resources. One of the better ones is our weather service. They have a great website. It's the typical super technical. So go to their Facebook page. They're incredibly responsive. They're always putting up updates, and they love to hear from us. Look at other, just for disclosure, that's not the BVS district website. That's a misspelling. But also we have Tehachapi CERT. We have a local team from Tehachapi CERT here in Bear Valley, led by Jim Nelson, who started the first team in Kern County. So we have information at Kern County Fire's website. Kern County Office of Emergency Services under fire as well. So that was your being informed. So now, plan ahead. So we're talked about mitigation. How is mitigation different than preparedness? Mitigation is the big things you can do to affect your outcome. Technically, you can say preparedness is a part of mitigation. It tends to be the big things, like clearing the brush from the side of the road, like our crews are doing for us, like bolting your house to your foundation. I mean, that's what we all do now. I don't think we have any houses that old in this community. But for the people back east, hurricane braces so that your roof stays on when you have hurricane, things like that. But we do have fire, and fire is a big deal. We still have earthquakes. Had one not too long ago. It was a little one. Anybody feel it? I did. So how about that heavy furniture that you have at home, that big, beautiful armoire? Is that bolted so it doesn't come down in an earthquake? Take that bowling ball collection off the top shelf. I say this in all my CERT classes. It's kind of common sense. Look in your room and go, all right, what can fly at me? Because it's going to fly at you. Locate and label your utility shutoffs, because you may know how to do it, but you may be with your teenager on the phone telling them how to turn off the gas. So make it easy for them. All right, so alert notification, we talked about Ready Kern and Code Red. And I get the question, well, why do I need the county's notification system? I live here. Well, most of us don't stay here all the time. We go up Bakersfield, we go out of the area. I signed up for LA counties because I go to LA County sometimes. There's no reason why you can't sign up for more notification systems than you live, that affect where you live. Also, Red Cross and FEMA have apps for those of us with smartphones that have information on preparedness, on mitigation. Plus, they have notifications. I signed up, my parents live in Texas, so I know when they have a tornado in the area, which is great, except there's nothing I'm going to do about it except call them and say, could you leave, please? Sign up, do sign up if you have horses for Bear Valley's Equestrian Emergency Plan. That's very unique to right here in Bear Valley. The concept is, if you have horses, mules, big animals, what have you, sign up for this. We have a whole volunteer team that when we have a threat to a specific area, notify those registered people to say, hey, something's in your area. You need to start making decisions. Are you going to shelter? Are you going to get ready to evacuate? Because I don't have a horse, but I know it's not an easy thing to get a horse into a trailer when it doesn't want to. So, and then follow the official social media sites. There's lots of people out there who are well-meaning, listening to a scanner, telling you what's going blow by blow. That's not going to help you in an emergency. That's just going to freak you out. Find out what the officials need you to do, and that's going to include when they need you to evacuate. Okay, create an emergency kit. You're going to hear it called a disaster kit, an emergency kit, a go bag, a bug out bag. You can call it Henry. Just put this together. This is the kit you need that has the stuff you need to leave quickly. Tailor it to your needs. Start with one of those FEMA lists or Red Cross lists. I don't care whose list. Start with somebody's list. Make it personal to you and your needs right now. Like I said, if you're sick or injured or something like that. Don't forget your medicines, especially your prescription medicines. If we get to a shelter, Red Cross will have nurses to help us get our medicines, but it's not going to be immediate. Always include an N95 mask at a minimum with the 2 straps so it's tight against your face. If we get smoke here and we have to shelter or refuge down here in the flats, it's going to get smoky. So maybe keep these in your car. The handout has a whole list of kits, basically, for the house, for the car, for the office, what have you, for the pets and such. And again, paper copies of your important numbers. We're going to get into evacuation, and again, there's a list there. Prioritize it. My list is actually 2 pages, double-spaced, pasted on the inside of the front closet. The first quarter of it is the have-to-haves. My laptop. I live for my laptop. And what? Oh, the cat, too, and the husband. So it has the have-to-haves. After that, it's the nice-to-haves. You know, well, it'd be great if, you know, I had a coat, you know, or if I didn't have anything like that. And at the bottoms is the pretty pleases. So that if you have to start at the top with your have-to-haves. All right, and Fiona's going to go into pet preparedness. But again, start with the published plan. Personalize it to your needs. Include, okay, you're going to talk about it. I don't want to step on you. All right, also included in this is your financial situation. Make sure you're insured. And I'm understanding that we're having troubles with fire insurance right now, but I don't think we can go without it. We're just going to have to get together and figure out, talk to each other, you know, who you were able to get coverage. But you need to have these important papers. You need to have them secure and available. So sometimes we can put them on the cloud if you're computer savvy or safety deposit box, but in some ways you need to have these available. And then your communications plan, part of your family plan. How are you going to communicate in a disaster? Now, this is your immediate family as well as your out-of-the-area family, and that could be friends, and too. Include them all. We love them all. So the old-fashioned out-of-state contact we used to use because our local phone lines were going to get clogged, well, your local cell lines are going to get clogged. It's still valid. You still need to do that. For your communications plan, what are your family going to get together if you can't get to the house? If you can't get to Bear Valley, where are you meeting? Where's your meeting place? And the whole family needs to know this. And again, have it digitally and printed. So take action. So when do I want you to take action? Now. Okay. We'll get there. All right. So I'm going to say get involved. Come hang out with us at DPAC. Come join one of these other wonderful organizations. And we have some of them, including our radio ham operators. Phil is my everything ham operating. I say make it work, and he does, and it's wonderful. Now, what's that second mode of communications? Ham radio is a viable way to do it, and it's not as expensive as it used to be. We have the VIPs, we have the equine volunteer team, that's that emergency equestrian plan. The group of volunteers, all your neighbors who are going to help you. All right. During a fire threat, we're coming to the end. So there's smoke in the air. We're nervous. We're not happy about it. What do? So start with the normal. Bring everybody together. Bring the animals in. Don't let the dogs be running around. Maybe put them in their kennel. Bring the kids. Don't let them be wandering down at the pool. Maybe it's time to come back home. So everybody's together. Listen to the local news, probably Bear Valley's, Facebook, and the other social medias that Megan is setting up for us. Charge your cell phones because you don't know when you're going to be able to do it again. And prepare for that evacuation. Get the car loaded. Start at the top of that list and work your way down. So get everything loaded, get everybody together. Park, so like everything we've always seen, parked at the end of the driveway so you can just pull out and go. It's not as big of a deal because we don't have so many areas where people are packed in together. And then if you need additional time or you're uncomfortable, you're scared, you don't have to stay. You do not have to wait for us to say leave. There's no reason why you can't go and make yourself safe and keep yourself happy. Okay, so you get that note. Time to go right now. Stop packing. And it seems odd because I'm telling you to go down your list. stop packing, get the kids, get the pets, if you have to get the husband, and go. Notify your out-of-state contact, anybody else who needs to know that you're leaving. Listen to the news for shelters, because they're going to be setting up as fast as they can. If we had more Red Cross volunteers, they'd be faster, just saying. And then when you arrive at safely, notify your insurance company, because they need to know what's going on as well. Fire is past, we made it, we're coming home. Not before you're told it's safe. If the news says it looks good and the officials didn't tell you it looks good, you're not coming back. It's not safe. We're not trying to be mean. We're not trying to keep you from your place. We're trying to keep you safe. But realize what's happened, too. We've had a fire. Everything smells off. What do animals' primary sense of direction, of home, of what's going on? It's their smell. So you got to keep them safe. Also, maybe the fence burnt down. You got to take a lap around the house and around the property and figure out what's left. Do not eat, drink, or breathe in anything that was near flames, smoke, soot, or water used to put the fire out. It is now contaminant. It is it safe to say it's carcinogenic? It's carcinogenic. It's bad stuff. And so now we have to work on getting some cleanup. And then again, contact your insurance company. So thank you for your attention. I hope I didn't go over. Okay, I'm good. So, and sign the roster for me. Thank you. We're talking about doing this again in the winter. If we can get more topics and such, is that enough? Do you want to see more? Which, do you want to see more, or it was enough? More. Okay, got it. All right. Come on, guys. I don't read minds. Okay. And then Fiona's coming.
If you can show people things as we go along, that would be great. Okay. Right, good evening, everyone. Some of you know me, Fiona 5 Dogs. You'll see me walking a large number of large rescue dogs around the nature path and so on. One of the things I'm going to emphasize, some of my slides cover the same topics that the others have already done, so we'll skip through those quickly. The main thing to remember is we're accessible. If you want more information or you want more presentations for your clubs or whatever, contact us. We are only too happy to hear ourselves talk, so we'll come along to any other meetings and so on and get more information. There's lots of information out there. And my beautiful assistant and brainy assistant, Jeannie, is helping the chief. And as soon as we get the PowerPoint going. One of the things that I'm going to emphasize is the buddy system. It is really, really important for us in this community to know your neighbors and to have buddies who are going to help you out if you have animals. Because you may be in Bakersfield having stitches taken out of your gum, having an eye appointment, whatever. Jeannie is my neighbor, so if she's gone, I go and get her cat if there's an emergency and put it in a crate and take it with me. If I'm gone, she has to get the 2 cats, the 5 dogs, the 4 horses, and get them all out, okay? All right. So we're just going to click through a lot of these quite quickly. If anybody needs any other information from me afterwards, come and talk with me. I've got all the time in the world to help you get ready. Me. I've been in the large animal response team that San Juan Capistrano had. I've evacuated several times to the point people will not go camping with horses with me anymore because a wildfire starts and we all have to get out. And I have to say, Bear Valley Springs has great awareness of preparedness. And we were up in Mammoth and a wildfire came along, and within 20 minutes, everybody from Bear Valley was ready to rock and get out of there. And other people were not. We had to help them. buddy system, your reciprocal buddy system, and you need a buddy who lives nearby and a buddy who lives further away, because if there's a fire near Jeannie and I's house, we're both going to be helping ourselves, so we can't help each other. So you need a buddy who's further away as well. Really, really important. Okay, I'm preaching to the choir here. You all know why we need to prepare. Okay, oh, can I go across the one? So legally, your animals are your own responsibility. These heroes here do not have any obligation to come and help you with your animals. They are your responsibility, so you need to plan for them. Okay, it's a picture of our bathroom. Okay, of course our heroes will help us if they can, but they are going to be doing other things. All right, they may be busy with other things that they cannot leave to come and help you if you didn't bother to get yourself ready. And if they do help you, you're utilizing resources that might be needed urgently somewhere else. Okay? So take responsibility for ourselves. And most of us here, we already are doing that. And as we've already said, our situations are unique. Each of us has a unique situation. We've already mentioned broken legs. We had a fire that was heading towards somebody, and through our communication emergency equestrian plan, we contacted her. She had a broken leg. She couldn't load her horses and get out, so she needed help. Bear Valley Springs' own situation is unique, and the people who are at most risk, and Debbie Humphreys and I have started already the horse census. The horses and the animals that are most at risk are those on the upper slopes. The fires will go up there very quickly, so we like to know where all those horses are. And there aren't many. Most of them are on the valley floor. But they need to be informed so they can get out if there's trouble. Horses are pretty good at doing their own mitigation. And many of the horses live particularly off the San Juan area and around the equestrian center. You're on flat land. There's a lot of clearance. We have the equestrian center to go to for shelter. So you're in good shape already if you're on the valley floor. Mitigation works. People have already talked about this. These are pictures from Bear Valley. This is one of my favorites. You've done your mitigation, and throughout most of the summertime, have your trailer hitched and ready to go if you don't need your truck for other things. People have covered that. We've got our emergency equine plan. I'm going to go into a little more detail about it for us. Communication. Now, we've talked a lot about evacuation, but when you have animals, or any of us, we may be in the situation where there's been an earthquake, we can't get out, so we need to be at home. So there are two prongs to being prepared, and particularly with animals. You need to have a couple of weeks' supply of stuff for your animals if you're going to get stuck at home. 2-3 days if you are evacuating and getting out, because then hopefully you get to the outside world and you can get some more supplies. So we're going to talk about temporary staging and the emergency sheltering. The equine emergency plan will not come and load your animals and take them out. We do not do that. We don't have liability coverage. You're going to have to do that yourself. Fortunately, we live in a fabulous community. So what's going to happen is if you're stuck and you are signed up for the EEP, some other kind neighbor will offer to come and get your horses. We were actually in France once when a fire broke out near us. Our pet sitter would transport our horses out, was the theory, was the plan. They were not comfortable driving up and down the steep roads. We had other neighbors instantly, Matt Bryant and George, instantly said, "We'll come and get your animals for you." So information is what the emergency equestrian plan is all about. It sends out texts and so on through the Code Red system. This is how it works. Chief here is in charge, and he sends out a Code Red to all the equestrians who are signed up saying, "Heads up, there's a problem." He also contacts Butch, who's the equestrian center manager. Butch then calls on us and the volunteers, and we go to the equestrian center, and we have everybody marked on a large map. We know where the fire is and where it's heading, so we start phoning you and giving you a heads up if the fire is coming in your direction. The good thing about social media, people keep criticizing it, the good thing about social media is that in the fires in Bear Valley, wherein we've used this system, we find that people are finding out on social media that there's a problem very quickly. People are texting their friends, sending photographs, so people are generally already aware that there's an issue, but that's not always the case. Once you have information, once you are informed what's going on, you can make good decisions. You can make smart, informed decisions. As the emergency continues, keep up to date with what's going on. We are so lucky in this valley that we have the equestrian center. It's huge. It's well weed-whacked by IGM. It's kept clear. We figured that we could actually relatively easily, temporarily shelter about 1,000 horses there. It would be hard work, but we can do it. We probably will never need to do that because it's only the horses that are on the upper slopes that are in real danger. But we have the capacity to take care. There's about 1,000 horses in Bear Valley. We'll get the new number as soon as we finish the survey. Plenty of space. Get there quickly. You'll get a nice pen for your horse. If you get there late, it'll get tied up in one of the arenas to a post, so evacuate early. Plenty of space for parking trailers and so on, and there will be volunteers there to help us. Where should you go? What should you do? And so on. And if we need to temporarily refuge in the equestrian center, that's what we'll do. We have the Central California Animal Disaster Team, and for those of you who know Debbie Geary, she heads that up, and we have the Greater Tehachapi Division, and in fact, if necessary, we can set up a shelter for small animals in the Milano covered arena. And Cheers to Charity contributed vast sums of money, and we have a beautiful response trailer in the parking lot at the equestrian center. So bless Cheers to Charity. They've made us safe. We can set up shelters quickly. You've got that buddy system. Really get buddies. Buddies who have, if you have horses, get buddies far away in Sand Canyon or Stallion who have horse pens and don't use them. So you can take your horses there in the event that we ever need to get out of the valley. Your buddy system is really important. Have buddies who live close to you and have buddies who live at a distance away. And be ready. Share resources. Help each other. That's the kind of community this is. So that is what will happen. Staying at home is preferable. And a lot of us buy hay in bulk and buy dog food in bulk or whatever. It's good to have a couple of weeks' worth supply of food in case we get cut off from the outside world. And be prepared to take your animals with you. The statistics of small animals that are left behind are horrible. They really don't stand much of a chance. One of the fires that we were involved with down in Orange County, the people were told to evacuate at 3 a.m. They weren't allowed home for 10 days. And people weren't allowed into the area because it was too dangerous. So take your small pets with you. Take them with you. Okay. And practice transporting your animals. If your dogs don't like, I know, wouldn't it be great if we could do that with horses? Wouldn't it be really good? I think it only works because these are ruminants, and so that is how they are transported regularly. How much money would that save us on trailers if we could transport our horses like that? So, and think about where you're going to go. Hopefully your reciprocal buddies, you would look after them. If their place burned, you stay with them. We've talked about the grab-and-go bags, and like I say, they talk about water. Well, if you have 3 horses like we have, and horses drink 10 to 20 gallons per day, you can't have 2 weeks' worth of water at home. I have lots of 100-gallon tanks that I keep filled and fish in them. So store as much water as you can at home, but you're not going to take that with you if you have to evacuate. You're going to go somewhere that there is water. So take some water with you if you have to evacuate with horses, but don't take 2 weeks worth. We've talked about documents, and Jeannie can show, that's my personal emergency preparedness folder, and here is my cat's emergency pack. I have bigger crates for them and if they have to sleep in them. So it's just a little bag, little box that sits there and you can come and look at this afterwards. I've got food, I've got a couple of bottles of water, I've got some cleaning supplies, and that is what I will take if I need to put the cats in the crates in there and go. The dogs will jump into the car, they won't need crates, but we have emergency supplies for them as well. So, and you can do it really cheaply. It's inexpensive. I'm the queen of the yard sales. You can buy beautiful, beautiful things like that for $5, $3. Sometimes I get them down to, and maybe $10 for a larger crate. Have a Heart has crates. You can do emergency preparedness on a really tight budget. Okay? It doesn't have to cost a lot. Paperwork, if you can, so that you can be reunited with your animals afterwards. You can do your photos, obviously, on your phones and things like that nowadays. Smartphones are really good. I have photographs of all my paperwork, emergency paperwork, and it's on the smartphone, it's on the cloud, so that if I need information. So when you're preparing your dog meals or your cat meals or whatever, you're preparing either to evacuate or if you need to shelter at home with your animals. Keep a couple of weeks' supply in. I leave the crates out with furry beds in them so the animals go in them and they're comfortable. So when I do have to grab you and stuff you screaming and kicking into the crate, it's not quite as traumatic as if you've never been in a crate. But don't put animals who are unfamiliar in together. Everybody needs their own crate. Okay. Identification. All of my animals are microchipped. My husband would be as well if it were legal. It's a really good idea. Some people are not keen on it, but it saves you the heartache of not being reunited with your fur babies after an emergency. You'll wish you'd done it. There are various other ways. You can buy nice fancy neck bands and all kinds of things online nowadays, or just write on your crate. Of course, somebody might take the animal out, but at least it's there. You can do duct tape and a marker pen. That's what I do, okay? Nice and cheap and cheerful. Buy these at Tractor Supply or whatever and write your phone number on the animal. And this is the down and dirty, quick stuff that you might need to do. We know that. You might have to trailer at night if you're not used to that. That'd be tricky. Keep half a tank of gas in your pulling vehicle at least. Keep your vehicles, if you can, pointing out, ready to go. Keep your stuff easily accessible. There's no point if you're not there and your buddy comes over and they can't find any halters or lead ropes or anything like that, or leashes, and you need to be calm. You need to take time to breathe. You need to work through your emergency plan. That's why it's written down, so that you work through it calmly. Because if you start to panic, you know what happens. Okay? And you might have to get out very, very quickly. And your plan needs to be flexible. You might have to, I've had to ride out, couldn't get vehicles out. I've had to take animals out by walking them or riding them. So be aware that you might have to be ready to do that. Evacuate early, particularly with large animals. Not the time to start training to load into a trailer. You need to practice. Otherwise, you can end up in this kind of situation, and nobody here should be like that. This is a very interesting one. All the time, every time there's a fire, people say, turn your animals loose. They'll be fine. They know how to preserve themselves. They know how to save themselves. So I asked Mark Milano, who has ranches across California, and rents some CSD land here. He has cattle and horses everywhere. And I said, Mark, what happens when there's a fire? Do the animals get to safety? Do they take care of themselves? And he said, no. What they do is they run to what they think is shelter, which is usually a depression or a gorge, and they hide there. And he said the fire comes up, the fire surrounds them, and it kills them all. And he said, our first job after every single wildfire is to go around the ranches and to shoot everybody who's not quite dead. So if you think that turning your animals loose is an option, think again. Plus, if they cause any accidents, you are liable. Plus, they take out whole strike teams. If they crash into one vehicle, a whole strike team is out. So resources cannot respond. So that's not an option. The first responders need the access, so if you've evacuated early, they're not going to stop you. You're not going to get in their way. You never want to be caught in a nightmare scenario like this when it's hot and smoky. Nighttime, you might, in the fires, we've done this. This is not a lot of fun. You need to keep calm. You need to plan ahead. You need to use your plan and get out early. If you don't have time to evacuate your large animals, I figure if I've got 5 minutes, I can get cats, dogs, husband, and me out. I need 25, 30 minutes to get the horses out as well. And if that fire is coming up from Cummings Valley to our house, I may not have time to do that. I am reliably informed by lots of people who've done this. If you just throw a big old pile of hay in the middle of your cleared pasture, the horses are so busy eating, they don't really worry about the fire that much. I've never had to do that, but I've been assured by people who've done this a lot that that happens. Then you have to worry later about if your fence is burned down. Okay? So let me reiterate, take your small animals with you. Take them with you. And make a plan. Don't let this be your plan. Okay? And I'm happy to answer questions via email, phone, or be around and help anybody who needs some answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Well, at this time, we have about 40 minutes left, and I'd like to open it up for questions and answers. Please come up, use the microphone, and we'll try to answer any questions you might have.